Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo news. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watu na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Tungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo news. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watu na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Tungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo news. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watu na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Tungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo news. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watu na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Tungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo news. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watu na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Tungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi
As Kenyans, we don't waste the time. As Kenyans,
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online. Pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use. Msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na iko private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes kama nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu. Don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online, pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use, msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Staki jokes mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu, don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? It's great to have you on here on this platform, and welcome to a conversation that I think is very much needed amongst all of us, and a conversation about child online protection and safety. If you might be or might not be aware, the Communications Authority of Kenya did roll out a child online protection and safety campaign just a few months ago. And the campaign is basically geared towards ensuring that our young people are safe online while they're using all these internet-enabled tools, that they're doing it while safe. And the Child Online Protection is an initiative aimed at protecting children when accessing information from the internet, and while using communication services and devices. And the internet, of course, we know is one of the most powerful tools that we have today, ever, in fact, invented. If you've heard about the Internet of Things or the fourth industrial revolution, I mean, we're talking about the internet pretty much. And so the Communications Authority of Kenya, as the ICT regulator, is mandated to protect consumers of ICT services, and this includes children. And to this end, the Communications Authority developed the Child Online Protection Guide as well, to protect and create awareness on how we can all ensure that our children are safe, are using the internet in such a way that they're not easily manipulated, they don't fall prey to cybercrime, cyberbullying, and are also aware of cybersecurity tools that they can initiate or they can put in place as well while they are browsing the internet. And so there's so many ways in which both minors and adults have fallen victim to issues like online crime or cybercrime and cyberbullying as well. And the different types of cyberbullying. I'm sure some of us have confessed in one way or another that they're being harassed online, or that they're being, excluded online, for lack of a better word, and cyber stalked, or maybe frapping, or some people have been approached by unknown people or people disguising as other people and have taken advantage of us on different platforms on the internet as well. So it's an important conversation for us to be having. And let me start by introducing myself. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. I am a media personality and a communicator, and I'm going to be your moderator for today's session that is pretty much going to focus on child online protection and safety. And among our guests today, we also have important people that we are going to be speaking to. Among them, and not limited to, I should say, we have Mrs. Mercy Wanjau, who is the Director for Legal Services, and also she will be representing the Director General for the Communications Authority of Kenya. And we also have among our speakers today, we have Fiona Asonga, who is from, I beg your pardon. We have Fiona Asonga as well from TESPOC. She's going to be here also giving us a perspective on how best we can protect against cyberbullying and protect our children in particular. She's the Chief Executive Officer at the Technology Service Providers Association of Kenya. And we also have Susan El Sayed, who is the Safety Policy Manager for Africa, Middle East, and Turkey at Facebook. Facebook that is now under Meta. And she's going to be talking to us as well about some of the policies that Facebook has put in place to safeguard against misinformation, disinformation, and also guarding children and adults when it comes to cybercrime and cyberbullying. We also have with us Ms. Caroline Mbugua, who is the Senior Policy Manager for Sub-Saharan Africa at GSMA. GSMA is the association, I should say, or the global system for mobile communications. That is an industry organization that represents the interests of mobile network operators worldwide. And so we're going to be speaking to her as well about some of the policies that have been put in place and what they're doing at GSMA as well to ensure that they're guiding and informing the public across Sub-Saharan Africa when it comes to child online protection and safety. We also have with us Kenise Agira, who is the chairman of the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association, who is with us here. So cybersecurity, of course, is a big issue, not just for child online protection and safety, but also in our day-to-day operations, in our work, and just our interaction with the internet. And he's going to be also giving us the background of law because his background is law. And so he's going to merge that with cybersecurity and forensics as well. So a great conversation, I believe, that we're going to have. And so to kick us off or to start us off, I would like for us to, if you can, share the link here or share the link to this conversation with a friend or your networks, so they can be able to join the conversation as well. I'm seeing quite a number of us online here, so it's great to see you all. And I'm sure it would also be interesting to know what parts of the country or the region or across Africa that you are attending from. So if you care to, I'd like to ask a question that you can respond to, and respond to it by saying, my name is XYZ, or Joy from Nairobi, and then go ahead to respond to the question, and we'll be looking at some of that feedback. And the question is, what kind of content are our children consuming? Is it safe? Are they safe? If you can respond to that question, I think that would be great. So take advantage of the chat box and let us know where you are attending from. So I'm seeing Muye, who is also from Nairobi, and a good number of us as well who have already caught on with that question that I just asked. And so to start us off with this, I would like to invite Ms. Caroline Murianki, who is the Acting Manager, Research and Consumer Information at the Communications Authority of Kenya, to give us the welcoming remarks. Caroline, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Doreen, for opening this meeting and webinar for us. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all participants to this very important webinar and meeting and conversation on online technical tools, safety tools that we can be able to employ as users of communication services, so that we could have a safer internet experience. And I hope that we'll be able to enjoy this conversation and also be able to learn a lot from our service providers in terms of the tools that are available in the market, as well as a lot of information about how we could all stay safe and how our young users could stay safe online. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Mercy Wanjau, who will be representing the Director General Communications Authority of Kenya, to give her opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Kenise Agira, the Chairman, Kenya Cybersecurity Forensic Association. Fiona Asonga, the Chief Executive Officer at Technology Services Providers Association of Kenya, TESPOC. Caroline Mbugua, Senior Policy Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa, GSMA. Suzanne El Sayed, Safety Policy Manager, Middle East and Turkey, MITA. Invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I read this speech on behalf of the Director General. I wish to express my gratitude to the panelists and participants for committing your time and resources towards this continuous exercise of ensuring a safer online environment for our children. As you may be aware, the authority has in the past collaborated with the private sector. It has carried out a number of initiatives aimed at securing our cyberspace for the vulnerable groups, especially children. Some of the initiatives targeted parents, others targeted teachers, others targeted students. Recently, we have decided to focus more closely on children. This therefore informs our theme for the discussion today, which is online safety tools for a safer internet experience for children. And this is aimed at encouraging children and parents to protect themselves from risks online. Schools are closing at the end of this week. According to data from the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, it indicates that 1 out of every 3 children have access to the internet. In our view, and in light of the forthcoming holidays, this could not have been a better time to discuss this thing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is also reinforced by our experience during the first year of the emergence of the global pandemic, which prompted widespread school closures. With the schools closing down, children and families turned to digital solutions to support children's learning, socialization, and play. While digital solutions provide huge opportunities for sustaining and promoting children's rights, these same applications may also increase children's exposure to online risks. It is therefore important that measures to mitigate risks should be balanced with children's rights to freedom of expression, access to information, and privacy. Keeping children informed and engaged and empowering them with the skills to use the internet safely is a critical line of defense. Ladies and gentlemen, Article 53D of the Constitution of Kenya specifically provides for every child to be protected from abuse, from harmful cultural practices, and all forms of violence. This therefore means that children should be protected not only in the physical world, but we therefore need to be vigilant and to hold hands to ensure that our children are confident and safe in the virtual world. It is our responsibility as parents and guardians, policymakers, educators, and caregivers to ensure the safety and preservation of future generations. The authority has organized this webinar to provide a platform for content and application service providers to engage the industry and the public as users of their services to showcase the safety tools they have put in place. We hope that the demonstrations will go a long way in ensuring that our children are able to protect themselves and to stay safe online. This webinar comes as a follow-up to the launch of the second phase of the Child Online Protection Campaign and is aimed at enhancing awareness creation on the risks and vulnerabilities to children in cyberspace. We hope to work with all stakeholders in order to achieve this objective and create a better space for our children by identifying tools to help minimize online-related risks and vulnerabilities. The COP campaign targets children, and it is envisioned that this campaign shall enable children to use internet responsibly, that it will equip children with the skills to stay safe online, and that it will also enable them to share and learn from negative online experiences. This way, we believe that they will acquire confidence that will enable them to make complaints to their guardians and relevant authorities should this be necessary. It also seeks to ultimately make children advocates for responsible and productive use of the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, lest we forget, our children are our heritage. They are our mark of prosperity. They are the future of this nation. As I conclude, I would like to emphasize that at the Communications Authority of Kenya, we recognize that cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. This requires coordinated action for prevention, preparation, response, and incident recovery on the part of government authorities, the private sector, and the civil society. This therefore calls for a much closer collaboration all round. It is only through a multi-stakeholder approach that this dream can turn into a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Masi, who is the Director for Legal Services here at the Communications Authority, also representing the Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya. Thank you so much. And I like the fact that you talked about that this is focusing on protecting the children on the internet. Children are accessing the internet for different reasons. Some of them for education, because as we all know, during the pandemic, a lot of education happening online. But then it's so easy for the distractions to also come in and manipulation online as well that follows. And that in itself is quite a challenge that we are looking at today in Kenya and just generally across the African continent. And so just helping children also, safeguarding them against the internet is something that we need to do, which is why we're having this conversation here. And before we even get into the conversation, it would be interesting. Can you hear me? Because I'm seeing Caroline is saying she's also struggling to hear me. What could the issue be? Can you hear me now? If you can hear me now, please raise your hand. I think my AirPods are not cooperating. Let me take them off in case that they are not much of a distraction. Probably switch them off. Then I apologize for that. Can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me? Sorry about that. If you're unable to hear me, but if you can hear me, yes. Kenny says you can hear me. Caroline, can you hear me? You can hear me, but not clearly. What about Susan? Can you hear me? Okay, you can hear me, but it's blurry. The sound is blurry. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me just try to fix that. But in the meantime, I think it would be great for us to kick off our conversation. I can, but it's blurry. Okay. If it's blurry, but you can hear me, can we just proceed with that so that we're not so much behind time? So I would like to request that if you can hear me, we can just move on to the conversation now. And I'd like to start by introducing our guests for today. And we're going to start with introducing our guest from the Communications Authority of Kenya, Mr. Joseph Nzano, who is the Head of Department Cybersecurity and E-Commerce at the Communications Authority of Kenya. We also have Ms. Caroline Mboga, who is Ms. Caroline Mboga, who is the Senior Policy Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa at the SMA, and Susan El Sayed, the Safety Policy Manager, Africa, Middle East, and Turkey, Facebook. And like I mentioned, Facebook is now under Meta. And we also have, we were expecting Fiona Songa, who is the CEO for Facebook. Hopefully she'll be joining us on a conversation maybe a little later. But to start with, I would like to allow for my panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll start with Denise, if you could just briefly tell us what the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association is all about. And then we can move on to Ms. Caroline Bugo, also, who will now tell us about GSMA, so we can have a wholesome conversation with our attendees, understanding fully what the organization are all about. So let me start with Denise. Denise, unmute yourself. Kenise, if you could just start by telling us what the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association is about before we can kick off our conversation, because we'd like for our attendees to understand the work that our panelists are doing before we get into the conversation. Kenise, if you can, unmute your audio. Unmute your audio, Kenise, and go ahead. Denise, if you can. All right, let me move on to Ms. Caroline Bugwa. Ms. Caroline, if you can hear me, kindly just let us in on the work that you do at GSMA, if you may.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. I just checking if you can hear me well.
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So as I just mentioned, my name is Caroline Bugwa. I am the Senior Policy Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa at the GSMA. And just for people to have a bit of an understanding of who we are. So the GSMA is a global organization unifying the mobile ecosystem to discover, develop, and deliver innovations, foundational to positive business environment and societal change. Our vision is to unlock the full power of connectivity so that people in industry, and the society at large can thrive. We represent mobile operators and organizations across the mobile ecosystem and adjacent industries globally. And in Kenya particularly, so Safaricom, Airtel, Jamii Telcom, and Telecom Kenya are members of the GSMA. And we deliver for our members across three broad pillars as a GSMA. So this is industry service and solutions, connectivity for good and outreach, connectivity for good and outreach. And our key mandate on matters child and safety is to provide policy advisory to government and of course to the industry around how to ensure that we can keep the vulnerable groups and particularly children safe online. We have our HQ in the UK, in London, but we have our Africa office, the Sub-Saharan office is HQ'd in Nairobi, Kenya. As a GSMA, I'm excited to be here and I look forward to share more around what we are doing as an industry association in supporting this important subject. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Caroline, for allowing us into what GSMA is all about and the role that you play there. I'd now like to also invite Susan LC to just share a bit more about the work that you're doing at Facebook, because we are interested in knowing the work that you're doing there. So Susan, who is the Safety Policy Manager for Africa, Middle East, and Turkey at Facebook. Susan, kindly briefly tell us a bit more about the work you do at Facebook.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joy. And apologies if I cough in between. I'm not feeling so well, so and if my voice is shaky, do let me know. But thank you for perfect. Thank you for your kind invitation to participate today. We're always really excited to be part of the Kenyan tech ecosystem. And at Meta, formerly known as Facebook, safety is a top priority for Meta, especially for children's well-being. And we take a comprehensive approach to making our platform a safer place for teens, including writing clear policies and developing cutting-edge technology to help prevent abuse in the first place. So in addition, at Meta, we are committed to supporting parents, caregivers, and educators with policies, resources, and tools to support the safety and well-being of youth online. So when it comes to young people, our family of apps are designed with the following values in mind, which is responsible empowerment, age-appropriate safeguards, and innovation. That is, responsible empowerment can be, we strongly believe in responsibly empowering young people to enjoy the many benefits of our platforms provide, age-appropriate safeguards, and that we know that younger users require additional safeguards for their safety, privacy, and well-being. And finally, innovation, which is we are constantly exploring innovative technologies to provide great experiences for young people, keep them safe, and solve the defining challenges of our industry. However, we understand that child protection requires a global and comprehensive response from industry, law enforcement, government, civil society, and families, which is why we're committed to working with child safety stakeholders to build and support the child safety ecosystem. And we also collaborate across the industry through organizations like the Technology Coalition, Fighting Child Sexual Abuse, an industry association that is dedicated solely to eradicating sexual exploitation of children online. We also work closely with our Safety Advisory Board, which is comprised of leading online safety nonprofits, as well as 400 safety experts and NGOs from around the world, including specialists in combating child sexual exploitation and aiding its victims. And also, in addition, we try to focus on in-country safety partners. So even in Kenya, we have safety partners such as Eve Minute or Mtoto News, where we engage with them in order to also understand the country level aspects and feedback in order to develop better policies and technologies. So our efforts also, of course, including developing industry best practices and building technology to fight that kind of abuse and supporting victim services. But when thinking about our approach to tackling child safety, we usually put it in three main buckets that can be grouped into prevention, detection, and response. Is someone speaking? Sorry. But yeah, and just to cut it short, because I understand we're short on time, is that lastly, we've recently launched a digital literacy program that is dedicated to sub-Saharan Africa. It's called My Digital World, and My Digital World provides accessible learning modules and resources to build skills for a digital world. So those lessons are designed for students aged 13 to 18 years old, and the curriculum is designed with step-by-step instructions for teachers of students in this age group also.
Right, thank you so much. And I'm hoping that you can hear me clearly this time around. Is my sound way better? Okay, great. So thank you so much, Susan, for letting us in on the work that you're doing as well at Facebook. And we're also excited to see that it's now under Meta. I think that's some good news right there. Kenise Agira, if you can hear me, kindly give us a brief introduction into the work that you do at the Kenya Cyber Security and Forensics Association.
All right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kenise Agira. Are you able to hear me clearly, Joy?
I can hear you clearly. I'll just request that you sit upright.
Oh,
Great.
okay.
Thank
Fine.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm the chairman, Kenya Cyber Security Forensics Association, and for Kenya Cyber Security Forensics Association, two things come to mind: cyber security and cyber forensics. Many times, a lot of focus has been on the cyber security, and that involves what should happen before and the best practices, the managerial control, name it. But again, then we also saw there's another problem. The moment when the same children have fallen victims, This matters to in the legal circle. How do you take this evidence to court? How do you get that evidence from these devices? That's where now the problem begins, and that's where we talk of cyber forensics. Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensic Association has been here since 2016, and it comprises of 3 entities. Basically, we have the law enforcement for the CIDs, those who are in the digital investigation. Then it also comprises the techies. Here we talk about the ICT practitioners, and we also have the legal practitioners involved, the lawyers, the magistrates, the judges. We felt we needed to come in and secure cyberspace by bringing 3 entities into a discussion. In a time to find a good techie will understand a lot of the legal terminologies, but he may not understand a lot of how to do the investigation. Have somebody do how to do the investigation. Then it has on the other side. They go to the legal guys. They know how to speak law, but when they come to issues about, we're talking about a phishing attack, they begin to ask, what is it? So you need to bring these entities together and in a good discussion. This much we've done, and we've had a lot of trainings, awareness, and even the same on child online protection with the judges, with the magistrate. Actually, we've been having what we call like a monthly engagement with the judges and the magistrate. We talk of these technical issues, we bring the industry experts, and to this extent, I would say a lot has been achieved, and much is yet to be done. Thank you.
All right. Okay, thanks a lot, Kenis. And I would now like to give an opportunity also to Mr. Joseph Nzano, who is the head of Department Cyber Security and E-commerce at the Communications Authority of Kenya, to just share briefly on the work that pertains to his department. Mr. Nzano, if you're here, the floor is yours now to briefly just tell us the work that you do at the Communications Authority of Kenya.
Thank you so much, Joy. My name is, of course, Joseph Nzano, as introduced. I'm happy because already I think Madam Mercy had already mentioned quite a number of things which we do at the Communications Authority with regards to child online protection. But more importantly, I would like to touch on some few, maybe just to emphasize. We have a fully fledged 24/7 department, which operates 24/7 department, which is called the KESAT, National Kenya Computer Incident Response Team, Coordination Center KESAT. In fact, as you look at the screen, some of the adverts going on there is for our mobile app, which is called the KESAT, of which we're able to, we'll talk about it later, but we're able to get good information from it and also report cyber incidents. So basically, at the authority, we are embarking on child online protection, which is part of the global cybersecurity agenda, which we call the GSA, for the ITU. And as Madam Mercy had mentioned, is that we are definitely currently going on to engage various stakeholders in child online protection, and even developing operating procedures, standard operating procedures for reporting child online incidents. And also, more importantly, collaborating with other key stakeholders, as mentioned earlier, including the various service providers, like, of course, Twitter, Facebook, who are in this panel, among others, in providing education and awareness to children. We have also prepared the booklets, the COP booklet, which we have shared in thousands to various schools and various institutions, so that we're able to teach children on child online protection. But in terms of handling incidences for child protection, the KESAT also receives these incidences, and we assist in facilitating the investigation and prosecution of such incidences through our fully fledged cybersecurity center at the Communications Authority of Kenya. And today I must also confess I'm also stepping in for my colleague, Madam Patricia Mushiri, who would have loved to be with you, but she is not in because of other pressing personal matter. So I'm here representing her, and I'm very glad to be here and to share this panel. Thank you so much, Joy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Nzano. And I would like to kick off now our panel discussion, because at least we can now fairly say, or did I miss out somebody? Do we have Miss Fiona Songa online? Probably she could take us through what the work that she does at the Technology Service Providers Association of Kenya. If we have her online, she could probably just highlight the work that's done at TESPOC, because she's the Chief Executive Officer. Miss Fiona Songa, it's great to see you. Welcome to the Child Online Protection and Safety webinar organized by the Communications Authority of Kenya. So kindly, please briefly tell us the work that you do at TESPOC, the Technology Services Providers Association of Kenya.
Morning, everybody. TESPOC has been in existence from 1999. We are an industry body that brings together all the service providers, mobile operators, ISPs, content distribution networks, application service providers, domain registrars, and payment gateways, as well as anybody else who's involved in the ICT space and wants to benefit from the services we offer, which a large part of it is policy advocacy, where we try to ensure that there is a right policy framework to facilitate and support the business sector and the activities that our members have to engage in with the public. We also run the Kenya Internet Exchange Point, where all the internet traffic for the country is managed and exchanged, and that is why we have bring in and how we bring in everybody else, including Facebook, Google, Amazon Web Services, Safaricom, Airtel, Telkom Kenya, all the ISPs. They're all members of TESPOC, peering through the exchange point, and many more. We've got up to 74 local and global networks peering at the exchange point, and we do have other key networks coming in by the close of 31st of December, such as Akamai, who also handle a lot of traffic into the region. And so because we handle that focal point where all the traffic comes in, we also run an industry computer security incidents response monitoring service. And with this, we work with the service providers, the different service providers, giving them heads up and alerts on what's happening on their networks and what they need to look out for. And we also, at this level of the computer security monitoring, handle equipment for the Communications Authority for Joseph Nzano and his KESAT to be able to work with us and collaborate and support on cybersecurity issues. Allow me to mention that 2019 going to 2020, we began a process with UNICEF Kenya and several NGOs involved in child online protection, including the Internet Watch Foundation, where we set in place, we created a draft document that seems to have gotten stuck at somewhere within the policy processes of government. And this is a national plan of action to address online child sexual exploitation and abuse for Kenya. And we prepared this document in consultation with the service providers. We had the consultant engaging our members in various meetings through the year 2020. And by beginning of 2021, in February, we had completed the draft of the document. And it was supposed to be taken in by the Children's Department and run through under the right ministry, so that then it gets adopted, and the Children's Act can then be adjusted to and updated to align to this, because the conditions within that document that guide on child online protection can work technically for the ISPs and would also work for the parents and for those that have to manage children who are online, and for the children themselves. So that is one of the things that I can say we have been doing. So it's still a work in progress. We are following up to just try and make sure that it gets the signing of the right ministry, so that then the Children's Act can be amended to give the right protections both to the service providers and to the children and to the parents and everyone involved in as far as child safety online is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fiona Asunga, for those remarks as well, and for sharing the work that you do as well at TESPOC. For a moment there, I actually didn't know that it was established in 1999, and that also under TESPOC, there is the Kenya Internet Exchange Point. Quite interesting to learn that. Thank you for that. And so I would like for us to especially get into this conversation today, because the reason why we're here is to understand child online protection and safety. And I want to start by asking the Communications Authority in itself from the ICT sector perspective, because what we see is that from the authority's ICT sector statistics report, and specifically on the status of cybersecurity in Kenya, there are certain trends when it comes to cyber threats and cyberbullying, cybercrime that we have read about. But I would like for Mr. Joseph Nzano to share with us briefly on the Child Online Protection Program, and also where exactly are these cyber threats mostly coming from. And then we will hear from Susan El Sayed as well to share with us the arising issues from the Facebook side when it comes to child threats online and what Facebook is doing as well. But let me start with Mr. Nzano. Mr. Nzano, in terms of the cyber threats, and I'm sure there are quite a number of statistics that you're working with the reports, where exactly do these threats come from?
Right. Thank you very much, Joy, and thank you for that question. Well, for starters, I must explain that the various types of incidences which we pick and usually share in our quarterly statistics report, you will find in every report, we have a certain number which is attributed towards child online threats. And some of the common incidences which we are seeing in that area includes, of course, cyberbullying, which basically we have, sometimes it's within children themselves. You find a group of children who are bullying a fellow child, or sometimes you would find cases where people of anonymous nature are portraying bullying activities on a child. That's very common. We have also seen, especially through the recent COVID period, there's a lot of learning which has been happening online. And during that learning, there are people who are scrupulous cyber threat actors who are now taking advantage of such learning platforms and, of course, intercepting the platforms, the learning platforms, and bringing in, of course, undesirable content to children with the aim of cyber grooming, which basically is trying to convince the young ones into sharing undesirable content online. And we have also seen a lot of exploitation in terms of, because most of the gadgets which we connect with, they have capabilities of connecting through camera, through video. So the scrupulous people, of course, they groom the young ones or the children into taking very explicit photos or selfies, I might say. And then, of course, they collect them perhaps for business purposes, for sale, or for that matter. Unfortunately, we find they also relate now to cyberbullying, where you find somebody's photo or a compromised photo of a child is being displayed, and then of course the child who is still online and connected will feel tormented by the very negative comments which will be made against that particular image. So there are also predators. Unfortunately, there are predators, people who pretend to be, or cyber threat actors who pretend to be avatars, or their avatars for that matter, elderly people of big ages pretending to be young children, trying to lure the young, the under 18s, I would say. Even we have seen this in cases of 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, among others, into undesirable exchange of content online, which unfortunately end up being hosted in other platforms online and then now sold commercially. One of course of the biggest dangers which we have is that it's very difficult, of course, to detect these events. And of course, in most children, you'll find they wouldn't report such activities unless perhaps they have a lot of confidence and in the persons who is supervising them while they're watching this content. So that's when we end up getting quite a few number of reports as compared to have perhaps other incidences. So we believe much more of this is happening without our watch, but the few which we have been able to expedite accordingly, and also in some cases even involved our linkages through law enforcement. And I can attest to you that already we have a couple of cases which have been put to book. Yeah.
Okay. And I would like to encourage, this is especially for the attendees, that if you have any questions for any of the panelists, especially looking at what Mr. Nzano just shared about where exactly these cyber threats are coming from, please make sure you use the Q&A section to ask your question. On the Zoom platform right there, there's a Q&A section that you can use. And please make sure you specify to whom the question is being addressed, and we'll be able to pick on from there. So I would also now like to bring on board Susan from Facebook, Susan El Sayed, to just share with us, because Facebook happens to be one of the most used platforms online. And in terms of accessing all kinds of information, it's not just used for personal interaction, it's also used for school programs. We have seen a number of young people as well using Facebook to interact with their courseworks, with their homework to some extent. And we are here to understand, because Facebook happens to be the platform also that has the highest number of extortion or extorters in this case, and the predators. How exactly do we deal with this? What measures have been put in place by Facebook to sort of safeguard the young people who are categorized as children, in this case, 0 to 18 years?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for this question. First of all, I'd like to say that Meta has zero tolerance for any content or any situation that would exploit children. And that's why we take a comprehensive approach to approaching this issue. And that's why our safety is really focused on partnerships, policies, technology, tools, and feedback, because in a way, these all feed in how can we develop our technologies and policies better that it's safe for children. So first of all, for any minors that we have across all of our platforms, we have default safeguard tools in order for them not to get exposed to such content. And that differs from each platform that they use. But also at the same time, understanding how crucial safety is, we have we now have 40,000 people working on safety and security, and we've invested more than $13 billion in teams and technologies in this area since 2016. So taking that approach is that, for example, we have clear policies. We have strict policies that are against harmful content, including bullying and harassment, suicide and self-injury, child exploitative imagery and grooming, and non-consensual intimate images, extortion, or human trafficking. And of course, we use technology in order to detect behavioral changes with any, like for example, bad actors that are unfortunately can happen to be on the platform, and that they would want to exploit their experience on any of our platforms. We do have AI and machine learning that would detect such concerning behaviors, and that would block them or restrict them from using our platforms. And one of the key things is that we understand that prevention is more important than response and detection and response. So from the prevention point of view, other than the technology where that detects the behavior that is concerning, or maybe even sends resources to the minor and saying, you know, maybe you should check this out. Do you know this person? You know, we intervene in the right times in order to avoid them from getting into trouble. But also, in my talking points earlier, I did say that we have launched one of the first sub-Saharan Africa digital literacy programs. It's dedicated for SSA, and it focuses on teaching children their rights and their obligations when using the internet, how to use it safely. So not only our platforms, but the internet in general, and it's called My Digital World. And this was created in partnership with safety experts and online child safety experts that are based in Kenya, that are based across the region and SSA, in order to make sure that also it resonates with the populations. And not only that, it's not only focused on children, but it's also focused on educators and also parents, because we understand we can't just focus on the youth and ignore the guardians or the educators. So definitely this was also some of the things that we have included. So, and one of the things, of course, we take into considerations is feedback. And it's probably one of the most important things, because based on feedback, we're able to go back and redo our policies or redo our and improve our technologies in order to make sure that we're tackling the incidents immediately.
All right, and just a follow-up question. In terms of your studies, where does Kenya lie? Like, how dire is it when it comes to child online protection? Knowing that you deal with Africa, maybe to some degree you could have specifically looked into certain countries where internet usage is high, and I'm sure Kenya is one of them. What does your data say about child online protection in Kenya?
So, unfortunately, we do not share any kind of data that is country specific, and I hope you do understand. But while we don't have country specific data to share, we do care that we do understand that it's really important to be transparent, and that's why we publish our community standards enforcement report quarterly each year. And this year, we actually, in the last quarter, the Q3 of 2021, we also included bullying and harassment metrics, which will help us to understand the prevalence. And that prevalence will help us to see where we should act. So basically, but in July 20 to September 2021, on Facebook, we actioned about 20.9 million pieces of child sexual exploitation content, and 97.1% of which we proactively detected before anyone reported it to us. And on Instagram, during the same period, we actioned around 1.6 million pieces of child exploitation content, and 92.3% of that were proactively detected. Of course, views of violating content that contains child nudity and sexual exploitation of children are very infrequent, and that's why we remove much of this content before people see it. Now, one of the key things that I'd like to highlight is that when any of this content is found on our platforms, it's very important to report, and we are encouraging people to report it, because as the previous speaker has mentioned, it is traumatizing for the child. And that's why we started a global campaign this year. First of all, we've done research to really understand why do people share such content. And most of the thing is that most of the time it's not for malicious intent, it's really out of rage or bad humor. And we started a campaign called Report It, Don't Share It. And we've actually launched it in Kenya earlier this year. And we've launched it across the world globally to encourage people to report this content and not share it. And one of the things is that when you report content, child sexual exploitative content on any of our platforms, we do not view it. It's immediately taken to our portals with the National Center for Missing Children and Missing and Exploited Children, and they are then viewing it, and they would forward it to the appropriate local law enforcement. And actually, Kenya is one of the leading countries to be in Africa to be set up with NCMEC in order to enforce or act upon such content.
Okay, great. I'm going to come back to you in terms of report it, don't share it. I just now want to give an opportunity to Caroline Mbugua, who is with GSMA, to just share with us in terms of policy formulation, because she does have a deep background in policy formulation from Kenya and across sub-Saharan Africa. Caroline, where do you think there are gaps in our policies? Because when you look at the increased cases of exploitation online, especially of children under the age of 18, there are quite a number. Do you think the problem is with our policies as a country? And if yes, where do we need to address? Where do we start in addressing them?
Thank you so much, Joy. And again, thanks for the opportunity. I think the first thing we need to understand is that if you look at how the world is moving, there's a lot of progression towards new technology and adoption of new technologies in the region. And everybody right now is racing towards digital transformation. A lot of governments in the region are talking about ensuring that Africa is not left behind in the fourth industrial revolution, which is a good thing, ensuring that everyone is not left behind in the and can participate in the digital economy. So I feel like there's a lot of focus towards that. And we need to ensure that our policies that protect the vulnerable groups also can catch up to this development, can be able to match the current times. So in terms of policy formulation and what we have seen in the region, particularly on issues around online safety, we notice that as governments are progressing towards this digital transformation agenda, a lot of focus is not necessarily put on the issue around digital safety. And you find that a lot of policies have not been upgraded or updated to be able to catch up with the current trends and the current developments. And I like what the colleague from Meta was just discussing, because again, it's important to ensure that as we are developing these policies, we take a collaborative and holistic approach in terms of ensuring safety for children. So at the GSMA, for instance, if I can give an example, what our motto or our view is awareness is your first line of defense. So once as a government or as a country, the first thing is to ensure that your children and the various stakeholders that are involved in the child's life, so these are caregivers, teachers, religious institutions, etc., are aware of what exactly is, child online safety is all about. Because we have seen in the recent past, recently the year that has just passed, and Ms. Mercy has just discussed, the digital tools were used to fill the gap or to address the challenge that we faced around schools being closed. So we can see that the digital tools provide that value or actually can provide a world of opportunities for children. So it is our collective responsibility to see how are our children interacting with these tools, how are we ensuring that they understand the benefits and of course the challenges, and of course the people, the entire ecosystem around this child. And the other important thing that I see needs to have a strong hold in policy formulation is the issue around prosecution. So once a case has been reported, what action is taken against the perpetrator? Because if there is no stern action taken against the perpetrator, then it's difficult, to cure this particular vice in a particular community. And of course, another key area that needs to be addressed in terms of policy formulation is the issue around reporting. So once a child has gone through some sort of issue online, so cyberbullying or any other challenge online, do they understand that there's a reporting process? Or do the people, the community around the child, is there a reporting process in place that they can be able to report to and get the help that they need? And once they report, is there a follow-up program that can support this child to be able to come out of this challenge that they have been through and be able to, not to feel like this, because a lot of times there's a lot of stigma that comes with it. so that they don't feel like they will be isolated or they will be unfairly criticized for coming out and speaking out about this. So there's a lot of collaboration that is required in this policy formulation. And I'm glad that particularly in Kenya, we have seen that with the Communication Authority and of course the Children's Department and the industry. And we look forward to seeing a bit more of that.
Okay, great. And I like that you spoke about, prosecution there, because half the time, even when these cases are reported, I think even the personnel that we report to or the institutions we report to, like, for instance, if it's say going to be the police department, sometimes they're not educated enough to understand what these digital crimes are all about, what cyberbullying is about, cyber exploitation, and all these other crimes that are committed online. And so I think I agree when you say there's need to educate, and I think probably Facebook would like to partner with Communications Authority as well to ensure that the digital world or My Digital World campaign also reaches out to those authorities that receive these complaints to ensure that more and more children are protected online. Thanks a lot for highlighting that. And progression in new technology as well. As we work towards ensuring no one is left behind, I think it's important to factor in the fact that focus should not only be on everything else or advancing into the digital world, but also the digital safety, because as we move forward, there is need to include child online protection and safety as well. I want to bring in Fiona and Kaynice, because I think that the work that they do here in Kenya particularly is important. So Fiona, in terms of the role and responsibility of internet service providers in child online protection and safety, would you place this as, for instance, your organization? To what extent do you do work that is particular to children, their safety, their protection online? If you could just elaborate more. And I know that you talked about the online protection and safety program that you have there, but I think in terms of protecting them, is there a procedure, for instance, when you notice that there is increased child bullying or child crime online, what are the next steps that you take from the back end towards the interface that these children interact with?
Thank you so much, Joy, for that question. Now, in addition to the work that we have done collaboratively with other agencies to have in place a national action plan to address issues of child online protection, we have also spent a lot of time talking to our members and working out mechanisms that can help to support children, especially with the current dispensation where a lot of schools have had to go digital. A lot of kids are having to access internet, not just at the school, but also at their homes. So one of the things that I know that service providers are doing is spending time as they connect schools onto the network. They spend time to educate and train the staff, the technical staff at the school, because that is the point at which mechanisms can be put in place in terms of controls that will limit what can be accessed and what cannot be accessed. So they spend time to train the technical staff supporting the schools so that they are able to appropriately allow and control the level of content that the kids are able to access while in school. And then there is also been some effort by some of the service providers to have sessions in the schools where they invite TESPOC to come in as a partner, and we talk to the parents and the kids on what they need to do to be able to keep themselves safe online. And one of the things that has come through over the last 1 year, because I think in April we had a last session in April, and then we've gone on to just monitor and see what else ISPs are doing. And so the training then comes in as one of the other things that are happening. is during the discussion, we realized that one of the things that we have not done as a country and as citizens of this country is to prepare ourselves, even as adults, to be good digital citizens. We are not spending time on being good digital citizens. We're expecting that somehow we will go online and it will be somebody else's business to make sure that we are safe. Unfortunately, just the same way you go into the streets, you have to be safe and make sure you keep yourself safe. You don't walk into gunfire or fights and things like that. When you find something is happening, you run away because you want to be safe. So the same way you take care of your safety in the physical environment, our everyday lives, we are actually advocating for individuals to make an effort to be good digital citizens, to take on responsibility, because there are different levels of responsibility that come into play. And we had a conversation with some parents and their children in April. And one of the things that came through was that there are different levels of responsibility. There's personal responsibility, which every child has to have over themselves as individuals. They need to know what is good, what is bad, where are the good sides, which are the bad sides. What do you need to do when you see a pop-up window coming in and it's not something that it has to do with what you're working on? What do you need to do? You don't click on everything and open everything. The same way you find that the everyday environment, you walk through streets, you walk through town. You don't just enter every open door because it's open. There has to be something that takes you in, you know? So that kind of responsibility that we apply is the same way we need to apply responsibility when it comes to actually approaching our own safety as adults, and even for children, more so for the children, because it's much easier to train a child right now to be a good digital citizen than to try and do it at a later time. So some of the things that we have had and conversations we've had with the children, and I know that Strathmore School has had a program running that other schools can also copy from, is talking to the children and discussing with the children, what are the rules of engagement online? What can you post? What can you not post? What information should be confidential? What do you need to do when you get online? What are you coming to use the platform for? Use it for what you need it for, and then leave the other things alone. Don't share passwords, for example. You cannot have everybody as your friends. There's been a lot of hype amongst young people on being popular, being a YouTuber, and you think you just take information, plaster your private information, your family life, everything online, and somehow you'll still stay protected and you'll get following. It doesn't work that way. The minute you put all that information online, you'll be exposed yourself. And sometimes the kids don't realize that when you have a YouTube account, even as a young person, there's level of responsibility that comes with it and with what you put in there. When you have a social media account, whether on Facebook or on Twitter, wherever it is, on WhatsApp, that is information you're putting into a public space that you may not have control over. So then what do you need to do? You need to put in what you're ready to share with the public. You need to know that you do not have to respond to everybody. You do not have to engage everyone. And I remember during that time, I asked the participants, when you wake up in the morning, do you stand outside your window, open your window, stand out there and tell the whole world, I am now awake? Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody pays attention. So why do we wake up and then go on to our social media platforms and say, I am now awake?
I woke up like this.
I woke up like this and I'm feeling like this. Really, you're beginning to expose a lot of your personal private life in the public domain, when the purpose of these social media platforms is for us to engage socially, but in a responsible manner. So how do you use them responsibly? You know, and part of being a good digital citizen means that you have to be courteous and respectful to others. And if you don't like something, it doesn't mean you have to respond to it. People have, it's a free space where people are expressing themselves. It's the same when you find someone in the street with their placards and demonstrating. You don't have to give them an answer. You let them shout and scream and say what they are doing and feel they have been heard, they've expressed themselves. It is their right. But
right.
You don't have to
what
respond.
strategies have you as TESPOC put in place to ensure that guardians and educators as well are able to guide children appropriately on internet usage?
One of the things we've been able to do is this kind of forums where we talk to the parents and the children, like what I'm saying has happened at Strathmore School. We've done something similar at Loreto Msongari. And these are just a few of examples where we are working with the schools and we're seeing it can actually work. And even individual service providers are spending time with internet clubs, because the schools have got internet clubs, and spending time with the internet clubs so that they educate the kids and help the kids have these conversations. And we normally will encourage the parents to also come in, sit in, and let's have an open conversation on being a digital citizen.
All right. And the kinds of conversations I would suppose are conversations about what to post online, what not to post online. Do you also educate them about the dangers of being in a position where they are unable to take control of the content that they're putting online?
Yes, we have had those conversations with them, and we did have a session one time at Our Lady of Mercy High School in South B, where some of the girls came forward and they shared their own experiences about their inability to control what they had posted online, and they thought it was a joke, but the joke turned into something else. And so the school had invited us to come in and just spend time with them and let them know what the dangers are, what they need to do, and help them possibly bring down some of the content that they had put in. So we do actually spend time letting them know what the dangers are, and we like to let the kids share their experiences, because we then learn a lot about what they think, their perception of what the internet should be vis-a-vis what the internet really is, and the pros and cons of what happens within that space.
Great. That's interesting. Thanks a lot for that. I want to bring Susan in as well, just for about the same question, because the different ways in which Facebook has been collaborating with different organizations and institutions as well across Kenya. And you did also mention the Report It, Don't Share It, which is what I want to ask particularly about, as it's tied to the strategies that Facebook, or Meta in this case, have put in place to guard and ensure guardians and educators and everybody are able to guide their children appropriately on internet usage. So about Report It and Don't Share It, this initiative by Facebook, has it been able to reach learning institutions where most of these target audiences are?
So this was more of a PSA that was launched across social media platforms globally. And it's something that was not targeted necessarily to education, but it was given the algorithm, it was reaching out, and it had a very strong impact to the different countries that it has reached. And it's a short video. So to describe it for you more, it's a short video that focuses, that shows how the impact of resharing such CSAM to different people on your platform rather than just reporting it. So, but this is part of a broader research that we have done, that we have shared on our newsroom, which is basically the contextualizations of our findings because in the end of last year, we researched basically we analyzed rather the kind of content that was reported to us to really understand why people were sharing it and why in the first place it was found on our platforms. As I mentioned, it was more of, it was not, the majority was not malicious intent. It was more of bad humor or rage. And I'm happy to share the link to the research in the chat to everyone to check it out.
Great.
And maybe that of course can be helpful to show everyone the research that we were doing. So I did just share it. So, but with regards to specifically in Kenya, we have been engaging a lot with different entities, even including the Kenyan Ministry of Communication, or ICT. So first of all, as I mentioned, Kenya is a trendsetter in best practices, and especially that it was also the first African country to be onboarded in the NICMEC. So as we don't allow it, we are also making sure that we are engaging with with deep dive regulation conversation with the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, and of course other local CSOs. One of the latest things that we have done at the end of summer, at the end of August, was engaging with one of the partners in Kenya called Eve Minute, and we created a webinar in partnership with them, and we gathered parents to really discuss what are the key issues that they're having, because it's important, of course, to listen to the issues or the needs of our communities, which is part of our safety approach, which is feedback. So we did listen, and of course we trained some of the parents on like how to have conversation, how can you even what are the safety tools and policies that we already have in place. One of the also latest things that we have just launched, I think 2 weeks ago, if I'm not mistaken, is on Instagram, is a teens guide, and it's really mainly for parents to understand it, and it's also available in Swahili, including English and many other languages, and it's just how to have a conversation with your child or with your teenager to understand also what is Instagram, because we also understand that not every parent is on social media. So it's really important to also get the parents up to speed, and that's of course separate to the My Digital World that we have launched. So we have different things that we keep engaging, from policymakers to parents, and of course to children through the resources that we launch, or even our so if you go on facebook.com/safety, we have this is our safety resources hub, and you have different resources for different issues. So we have also the youth portal, cyberbullying portal, the parents portal or child safety, and that includes a ton of resources, and sometimes even in-country resources that is offline, that would be available to help you on your journey on the internet, and how to understand how to stay safe, and absolutely, of course, how to understand what are your rights, and how to be a good digital citizen, and what should you share and what you should not. This is definitely, of course, and the past year with the pandemic, the global pandemic, it has become even more important to educate every person in the ecosystem to really understand how can we support our children while they're growing up in a digital space.
Great. Nzano, if you can hear me, I would like to hear from you as well, because the Communications Authority of Kenya does have an online protection program, and we are now actually in the second phase of this campaign that has been running for some months now. And part of the slogan that's being used there is "Huwezi tucheza, tuko cyber smart." And while this slogan, sounds so cool to the younger generation, it's another thing if they're actually not being smart about using the internet. Fiona did mention something about them knowing that this kind of content is suitable for the online audience, and then when are you sharing too much information that could actually get you to be a victim of cyber exploitation. But now, how can the communication service providers leverage also on the services offered at the authority's National Computer Incidents Report Coordination Center? Because I think that not many are aware of it. If they are, it's the service providers who are aware of it, not the service consumers. So just tell us a bit about that and how we can tap into it as parents, as educators, and children.
All right. Thank you very much, Joy. Indeed, we, the Communications Authority of Kenya, we on the 30th of September, we had the First Lady launch the campaign, which of course, as you have already put it, huwezi tucheza tuko cyber smart. And the theme here is to empower actually children and youth to leverage on knowledge and awareness on what is out there or what we are speaking about right now with regard to information, knowledge, and skills of how they can protect themselves as they, of course, using the internet online. Now, this is very much in line to the ITU objectives, right, of child online protection, which is basically, it means identifying the risks and vulnerabilities to children on the cyberspace. And then, of course, creation of awareness among policymakers, industry, parents, and educators, as well as the children. So that's why in our stakeholder mapping, we involve all of us, the policymakers, the first lady was here, the industry. We work together with the various internet service provider, as Madam Fiona has spoken, through TESPOC and also through other industry players, even the various social media service providers, of course, who are represented here by Facebook, who have very good platforms. And we really appreciate the level of creativity that the service providers have continued to provide in terms of using technology, some which includes artificial intelligence, machine learning, behavior learning, whereby in the event a child is operating an online tool or an online application, and in the event they start digressing into content which is perhaps not meant for them, immediately these service providers have inbuilt systems which somehow detect this and be able to start asking further questions to the child. For example, what is your year of birth? I'm sure you must have seen this once in a while, especially if you were in those children-based applications. And another thing also, which is very important, is development of practical tools which should help to minimize the risks, and of course sharing the knowledge and experience. So how can we work together with service providers, as we had set forth that question? I think the first thing is we have to know that there are a number of tools, for example, technical tools out there, which we can use, of course, to protect the minors online. And what we need to do is to jointly provide these tools and make them readily available for parental guidance for the children. And there are various ways of which we can do this. For example, there are those tools which are known at the most basic level, will provide the parent the ability to block inappropriate contents and only allow contents of a certain what we call the whitelisted content to be seen through the devices to the child. And there are those also which perhaps are very specific to limiting the time of which a child can access connectivity, because you and I know once we provide the gadgets and the Wi-Fi to the young ones, they can be there for hours and hours, if not for so long. And so other tools do that. And also we have tools, of course, which our AI in nature and can able to detect what is required. And now at service level, of course, at the service providers level, this artificial intelligence is very key. The blocking of such content is also most key, because you see the ISPs have a visibility at a gateway level, which of course the parents and any other supervisor who is supervising these children, they don't know. And then also there are those now invisible tools. Perhaps those parents who want to get more techie can install some invisible tools, and how you can actually clone the device. So whatever the child is doing, you're also able to see on your end. That way you are sure that you are able to protect them. So now at the point of providing internet, at the point of providing provision, the gateway, which now the various service providers are involved, let's also try and avail as much as of these tools as possible, and if possible in almost zero cost. almost zero cost, because that's the way we can be assured that what we aim for, which is a child safety online, can go on. Just to add to that, Joy, as you are aware, we have a project through our USF department where we are currently providing internet connectivity now to almost 1,000 schools in the country. And then we did a small survey later to find out exactly what are these young ones using this connectivity for. Is it for education? Is it for leisure? Is it for pleasure? And from a quick research which we did, we are still not yet published the report, of course, but hope to do it soon. You are shocked, quite a good percentage of the usage was pornography in school. Yes, let me shock you. Yeah, so the most inquisitive point where a child will always want to get to whenever they get to the internet is those areas that they don't know. Yeah. And you find they venture there. And what happens once you go into one link and the computer, the device doesn't have any protection, it will click you to the next link and the next link, and we are getting more and more explicit as we go deeper and deeper into connectivity. So one of the things that we are looking at, of course, is as we are providing this connectivity, we also need to provide safeguards. We need to provide filters so that now at school level, perhaps empower the teachers and the head teachers and the ICT teachers in those schools. They shouldn't be able to at least not access from school level. So now, and also empower them that the use of this can be more in terms of education and learning. So still part of the COP campaign, there's a portal which we have established, and I'm sharing the link online shortly, which in partnership with some of the service providers, where we are sharing a lot of information. That is cop.ksat.go.ke. And also we also provide guides which can be used by parents, and there's a link I've provided there, ksat.go.ke, on best practice guidelines, which can give empower parents with small tips here and there of how to safeguard their children online. And then more importantly, as I had mentioned earlier, we asked ourselves, where does a child access the internet the most? And the tool, according to our statistics, which you can go and check our content statistics, you'll find that the tool where internet is mostly accessed is the phone, the mobile phone. That's why we developed a special mobile app, which is called the KSAT, whereby anybody, this is a point of convergence, whereby the least you can do as a parent is to install this KSAT app there, so that now whenever the child finds some difficulty online, encourage them to report through this mobile app. And the good thing about it, it even has anonymous reporting, whereby if the child doesn't want to reveal herself or to reveal where she is, at least they can report bad practice. They can report bad URLs or bad emails that they have come across in the process of using the device. So the mobile app KSAT is available in iOS and in Android. And all these are efforts really by the Communications Authority to try as much as possible to empower our young ones to use internet in the most safe way.
Okay, and I like that you talked about the fact that they use the phone. And I don't know if you went deeper into your report to find out if they own the phones or they're using their parents' phones and guardians' phones.
Yes, Joy. In most cases, you will find they use their parents' phones. But most interestingly, most parents would buy their children phones, and as a gift or as a form of reward. As parents, perhaps it's a common belief that if you buy the child a phone, perhaps you'll keep them busy. You would rather have them sitting at home on your sitting room or in the bedroom somewhere, and them walking around. Maybe that's more riskier. The only challenge is that perhaps the risk still follows them to the phone, right? Where now it can even be more devastating and even more embarrassing, and the impact can be more heavier. So most childs finishing class 8 in our research, we realized that the best gift they ever promised and given immediately they score some fairly good marks to make them go to secondary school is a mobile device. That's why you find almost 60 to 70% of connectivity in the country actually is on mobile devices. And
we talk about at what age should a child be given a mobile device, in this case, a cell phone, a tablet, a laptop, and if then they're given it, what kind of content is on these devices? I think that's
Joy, that's a good question. I'll also want to throw that to my fellow panelists, of which I think most of them are parents.
I think so. I think we should.
Okay. What I could say, looking, for example, at Facebook, and because they are here and I can quote them, and I'm sure they can expand this later. I think they encourage engagement from age 13 onwards under supervision. Yes. And I think from age 18 now, you can now be open to access everything else. But perhaps I'll also throw that to my fellow panelists. It's a very difficult question. But I think, personally, I think as long as you have put safeguards, as long as you're in control as a parent, you know what your child is using the device for. Then I believe at any age, really, you can empower them with that device, very powerful device, but be very much in control. That's my guide.
All right, be in control of the devices that you're giving to the children. Caroline and Kenise, in fact, I want to go to Kenise first. Kenise, if you're on the line, I'm hoping that your audio is now a whole lot better. If you can hear me also, you can let me know. But in terms of work that you do at the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensic Cybersecurity, just that pornography happens to be one of the most viewed content in schools where internet has been installed by the Communications Authority. How best do you think that we can guard or just put a red safeguard the younger children from, because if it's being accessed by an 18-year-old, the same content is being accessed by a 12-year-old. So how do we guard against this? Unmute your sound kindly. Okay.
All right. Three things we found out. Actually, last quarter we had a conference on child protection, a virtual conference, and three issues came up. Most of this is about child protection. Yeah, the adults are ignorant. When you talk of adults ignorant, for a situation whereby yes, the adults have these devices, they don't know much of what is basically in these devices. But two, we found out that children will always be children. What that makes children to be as they are, they're very curious, also innocent. And so the curiosity is also paramount to children. And then that thing we found out during that conference was that the technology is evolving and emerging, and this is also bringing to the child protection. Now, coming to your question, what is that you can do in regard to the child online pornography? Number one, parents should now know basically what their children are watching. We have a situation whereby these children, as they grow up, they don't have the bells, those jingle bells that we see. If a child will rather phone, open up, but children, later on, they move up the next, and many times
Kenise, I'm afraid we're really struggling with your sound. It's tearing quite a bit. I don't know if you can move closer to the device and avoid movement because your earpiece is being affected by your movement. So I want you to say something so you can be sure that your sound is okay.
Are you getting me now?
Yes, so kindly avoid movement as your earpiece interferes with your sound. Let's try this again. You were saying that parents should know what their children are watching.
Exactly. What they are watching. Actually, knowing they need to keep an interest in what the children are watching devices. You find children, parents, they open these games. All right. Then children, as they are the next level. You give a child a game play. You don't even know how the game is played. You even create time to play with them, to understand how these things are. But many times, most parents, they live it at that level. Here on this is the game, and I go away. That is one point where I think that needs to be addressed. Let parents also take full responsibility. They play with their children, plan, visit how these things are. Recently, we saw something, I think it was a game craze, crazy crate jumping on top of some crates. So it was really getting points, I think, almost worldwide, where people jump at
the crate. But
so
just the interest of time, and I'm also trying to consider how shaky your sound is. At the Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association, how do you suggest that going forward we deal with it? If you could, very good.
I suggest number one, that the type of that has begun now should continue. By that I mean, now can be coming in, protests for coming in, so that people are beginning to have joint voice. Or should happen. What we have at the moment, if you have very disjointed, if I campaign by.
All right, Kenise, I'm afraid I have to allow you time to fix your sound. Kindly, if you could fix your sound in the meantime. Let me get to Caroline. Caroline, your views in terms of going forward and the policies that we need to have in place that should be in place, because you said that in terms of focusing on the digital safety, the policies are not updated and upgraded to suit the times and protecting our younger generation. So what's the ideal policy that we should have that is looking into child protection and online safety, or child online protection and safety?
I think even before I go to the question that you've asked around policy and what we need to do, I think coming back to something that was raised by a colleague from the CA, we need to understand that our children are a reflection of our society. They are who we are. Mm-hmm. So when we see what our children are doing, they didn't learn that from nowhere. They saw that somewhere. So it's important for us to understand that when we are talking about being a respectful person offline, there is no difference between your persona online and offline.
Right.
A responsible digital individual is as important as a responsible person offline. So what you do online, because I get the sense that a lot of times there's this feeling of, there's this power that comes when someone is behind a keyboard, and there's this feeling of anonymity, and more often than not, you'll find that a lot of us will behave differently online as compared to how people behave offline. So one thing we need to have our children understand is that there is really no difference between how you're supposed to take precaution when you're offline to how you're supposed to take precaution when you're online. If at all, when you're online, you need to be more cautious because you're exposed to a wider platform. There are more people that can influence your life, can be able to read, because you're dealing with some people who are not in your normal circles. So it's important for us to understand the value of, to have that awareness, because again, a lot of parents sometimes are not able to keep up with what our children are doing online. And it's important for us to understand that because of how technology is advancing very fast, our children are also very fast adopters of this technology. So you'll find that more often than not, they will be ahead of us, and it's not a problem. But once there is that clear understanding, and that is why I say awareness is your first line of defense. Once there is that clear understanding of exactly how you're supposed to carry yourself in the online space, the availability of tools to be able to report incidences and to get the help that you need is very key. And it's important for us to start normalizing these discussions and to stop having that stigma around some topics, so that we can be able, our children are able to actually talk about these things in forums, in sessions, even when, in different sessions, so that we can be able to bring this out. Because it doesn't matter how good the tools we develop, it doesn't matter how good your rules are in the house, your child can always be exposed to some danger, even outside the house. Because, for instance, you can have the best tools available to you in your house and you apply them to all your gadgets. But these days you will find that you can access Wi-Fi for, a different device or a different household. And perhaps that house doesn't have the similar measures that you have put in place. Then your child is exposed to some of these challenges. So it's important, even as you're developing these important tools, and they're key, they play a big role, because you have technical tools at the network level where you can block certain sensitive content, and there are technical tools that can be availed to a device itself. But it's important that we help our children understand that the most important thing is to understand that these things are wrong and how to address when you're faced by that particular challenge. So to come back to your question around policy, so there needs to be a modernization of our policies in the region for us to be able to adapt to the digital age that we're actually heading towards, and for us to be able to capture the new ways that perpetrators have been able to currently using in terms of technical tools to be able to reach vulnerable groups like children, etc. So if you look at a lot of the acts that we've been able to review, Children's Act particularly, that we've been able to review in the region, you find that the acts were developed with a mindset of physical harm to this child. And now we have this challenge of online harm. So a lot of them need to be upgraded to be able to accommodate that. And I'm glad that Kenya, as is one of the countries, is an influencer, is a region and a pioneer on a lot of things, and is one of the countries that is already walking this journey to look at how we can be able to update this, and of course incorporate all the other players in the sector. So it's an important thing for us to do that. And the other important aspect that we have been encouraging a lot of stakeholders to do is to incorporate children as you're developing these documents. It is important for us to understand their views of online safety. What do they see as online challenges? How do they see, how best can these challenges be addressed? Because at the end of the day, we are trying to help them. A lot of times you'll find that we do this work without involving them and we miss the mark. So it's important to bring them into the conversation, however best possible, so that we can ensure that their voice is heard and we can be able to speak their language, even as we are developing both the policy tools and of course also these tools that help to intervene in terms of providing that safety space online. Thank you.
Great. Are you, as GSMA, in a position to influence your clients, for instance, to take up and put out policies that are inclusive of child online protection and safety?
Yes. So that is one of the things that at the GSMA we do. We have an entire program that is purely dedicated to that. And how we do this at the GSMA is, one, we worked with UNICEF in the development of industry guidelines on matters child online safety. And these guidelines are available to our members. And on top of that, we have working groups and sessions with our members to be able to encourage them or to guide them on how best to bring these guidelines into practice. So number one, the first thing that we ask is for them to have policies that recognize the rights of a child and the consensus is around that. For them to understand what are the rights of this child, and to have an officer dedicated in being able to identify that this particular organization is living to the aspiration and the rights of a child as defined by the UN Convention of Children's Rights. And after that, we encourage them to develop a policy that now speaks to online safety of children. Because of course, when you talk about the right of children, I mean, rights span, to a lot of things, the right to education, right to shelter, etc. Then we bring it down to an online space where we talk about the importance of developing an online policy that looks at the development of your products from start to end and ensures that by design, children are protected. So this is in the development of your products, in the marketing of your products, in the engagement of children. For instance, if you have a call center and a child calls in, how is that handled differently compared to if an individual was to bring in? Do you have a reporting mechanism internally to be able to address some challenges that may be brought about by, when you have children, issues that are being brought to your organization? And then, of course, we encourage them to develop awareness programs by reaching their customers through, of course, various media channels, SMS, website, email, different media channels, to be able to have that reach. Because of course, as Nzano has rightfully mentioned, majority of internet traffic in sub-Saharan Africa, over 90% of it is done through mobile, because we are mobile first, mobile only region. And with that in mind, that brings us to the question that mobile has the greatest reach. So it means it also is the tool that can be leveraged to provide the highest awareness with our consumers. So of course, mobile operators are in that unique position to be able to do that as you engage with customers.
Right. All right. Thanks a lot. Because in addition to what you just said, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child and the Kenya Constitution provides for certain rights and freedoms, such as the right to privacy, the rights to information, rights to expression, rights to access to information, among others. And it's actually interesting to see how GSMA as well has ensured that these rights and freedoms are safeguarded in the life cycle of the organizations of your clients, as well as the organization at GSMA, and in the products and services that you offer as well. That's quite interesting. I want to give one more opportunity to Kenise, just for safety. So I don't feel that I didn't give him an opportunity. Kenise, do we have better sound this time?
I believe we have.
No, we actually don't. And I'm afraid because of that, maybe what you can do for us is to type your views, because it feels that you've put the phone on loudspeaker, which is giving an echo back on this end. And the device is a little bit far from where you're seated. So the closer you are to the device, the better for you. And in the meantime, I'm just going to cross over to the questions coming in from the audience, because I would like for us to also get a little bit into that so that we are not missing out on the questions here. Marjolaine Kirima, the director at End Cyberbullying Association, ECBA, is saying, glad to have joined this webinar. At ECBA, our mission is to ensure a safe and enjoyable online experience for all through awareness creation on the need to respect the rights of other internet users to privacy, freedom of association and expression, and the right to information. Currently, we are running an inter-university training of trainers program, training online safety ambassadors, and we have over 30 universities on board and would love to work with the Communications Authority and all other stakeholders. And glad that you've shared your contact right there. And I'm seeing there's another person called Colin Ruto, who is also talking about a partnership that they would like as well, because they're helping out on child protection programs that include anti-FGM awareness, GBV awareness, mental health awareness, all of these that are very critical in terms of child online protection as well. And I also like to ask a question here that I think would probably best go to Susan. Susan, what industry collaborative mechanisms exist to strengthen the technical measures and commitments to address issues around online safety and child protection? I don't know if there are collaborative mechanisms that you have in place, that you have with certain organizations per se. And I know that you did mention one of them here in Kenya, but are there others that are more closer to the subscribers and users of Facebook that they can easily interact and share feedback on what exactly they need changed, or how they would like Facebook to put those safeguards in place?
So first of all, with regards to providing feedback, again, reporting, if there's something to report, please do report it via our platforms. This is the fastest way to reflect on key issues. With regards to engaging with us, of course, our policy team and the local office that we have here, and even myself here, we're more than happy to engage with key partners to really understand. But other than that, we're continuously engaging with public sector and the Communications Authority itself, and also other partners that in a specific way in order to continuously get feedback. But we do understand that with regards to the collaborative mechanisms, that child safety is an industry-wide problem. So as I mentioned, it requires collective action to protect children. So first of all, we regularly host child safety hackathons, where we bring together engineers, data scientists, designers from across the industry, as well as nonprofit partners to code and prototype projects focused on making the internet a safer place for children. In 2019, we made our photo and video matching technologies open source, which allows industry partners, developers, and nonprofits to more easily detect and identify abusive content and share hashes or digital fingerprints of different types of harmful content. And of course, it's allowing hash sharing systems to communicate with each other, which making the system a much more powerful system. And in 2020, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and other technology companies announced Project Protect, which is a plan to combat online child sexual abuse. And this includes, of course, a renewed commitment and investment from the Technology Coalition that's expanding its scope and impact to protect kids online and guide its work for the next 15 years.
All right, for the next 15 years, you say, and also identifying abusive content. Are there any, say, and I don't want to make it look like you are in a position to respond to a legislative question, but in terms of like the support mechanisms that you do facilitate, and I know you've talked about the hackathons that allow for the coders as well to put out there and the prototypes that they put out there, but would you say that maybe we are missing out a link here? Are we listening to the children, or we are creating all these safeguards from the end of the adults going down, as opposed to look at what the child is going through and developing a solution for it?
So definitely, as part of the research, for example, that I shared earlier, this is all listening to the children and really understanding what are the things that they face. So from a design perspective, we're always very user-centric. So we cannot imagine, for example, going and creating something for children without listening to the children, without really understanding what they're facing. And this is exactly what we do. So of course, some of the content that we analyzed, we understood what is happening. And that's why, for example, we created the campaign, Report It, Don't Share It. For example, also understanding that when children are using our platforms, where there might be bad actors trying to contact them. So that's why we are basically monitoring any behavioral signals that seems to be malicious, and then we do remove @friend, for example, from any minor, so that adults who they don't know and seem to have bad signals of their behavior, that is removed and they cannot contact this child. But also at the same time, we understand, for example, children can forget that they are, for example, sharing their location while they're using our platform. So that's why some of the defaults that we have on our platforms, on Facebook, for example, their location sharing is by default switched off. And if they do share, they do switch it on, we keep sending them reminders that they are sharing it and they should be switched off. All of their accounts
and of course
are
they
private.
Yeah, and there are issues as well of misinformation and disinformation. And, the possibility of an underage person clicking on a link, a misleading link, are so high because in this case, it means that if it's misinformation and they tap on it, to them it could seem authentic, but tap on it and it takes them all the way into something else. And these are cases that have also arisen on Facebook as well, misinformation, disinformation as well. Would you say that now the measures that have been put in place to safeguard children are way better than they were before?
So we are continuously improving our technologies and our policies. So I can't say that this has become better. It's just a way that we're just keep on building on and responding, and even proactively anticipating some of the things as the kids grow, as kids of younger and younger age are having access to the internet. But one of the key things that I'd like to highlight is we only allow children of age 13 and above to access our platforms. With regards to the links that that are shared, so for example, if it's COVID related, we do have a COVID center, and if anyone is sharing any link, we do give tips, and we have an interstitial that says, or a pop-up that says, make sure that the right resources are there, that they're mentioned, and even sometimes they're in-country relevant. And of course, I'm not an expert in misinformation or disinformation, and that we have specific functions for that at Facebook and that are dedicated for that. But I do know that specifically for certain topics, we are also, of course, covering it with some pop-ups such as the COVID one. And with regards to news, we're always in partnership with the fact checkers that are even aware of the in-country and of the local contexts. So they are also helping to fact check some of the news that are being shared. And if it is misinformation, disinformation, it is acted upon according to our community standards.
Awesome. All right. And probably you could bundle this up with your closing remarks. There is a question here from YouTube. Someone called Johns is asking, what sort of parental control tools at the IP level do you, the experts in the panel, recommend based on your assessment of what's available out there? Should I pose this question to Caroline?
Yeah, but I didn't
because
quite
Caroline
get the
is the GSMA person who deals a lot with, I think, GSMA and TESPOC, as well as Communications Authority, will probably be able to respond to this. Caroline, what sort of parental control tools at the IP level do you recommend based on your assessment of what's available out there? Are you able to respond to that question from Jones on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. As I had mentioned a bit earlier, so I won't necessarily mention like a specific tool because I think there are very many tools out there.
Right.
But there are definitely different tools that can be adopted by the mobiles or an ISP company. And so the first bunch of tools are normally tools that are at a network level. So where you can take down certain content that is either harmful to a particular group of vulnerable individuals, for instance, children. So this is, for instance, child sexual exploitation content, or cyberbullying, or human trafficking kind of content. So there are different organizations that will be able to provide this information through international collaboration. For instance, Internet Watch Foundation, international enforcement organizations such as the Interpol, etc. normally have like a link or a various links to various content that is deemed inappropriate, and ISPs can be able to plug into such a network and be able to notice and take down some of this content completely from their network. And so this is at a network level. And we've seen a lot of operators do this, particularly, for instance, in Kenya. I know Safaricom have an agreement with Internet Watch Foundation, and an operator like MTN also has that for their operation in the entire of sub-Saharan Africa. And to come down to at a personal level, so we also have different devices different solutions that can be, a parent can be able to access them, or are available or for free to be able to download. And these particular solutions provide that kind of work. So you have those that you can be able to see exactly, sort of like almost clone your device, the child's device. You can see exactly what they're doing. You can be able to block some, it comes with guidance on the content that you want to block. So for instance, you want to discourage a certain behavior like gaming, for instance. So you can block like gaming sites, pornography sites. You can be able to block sites that have been classified, to be older than your child's age. And you can be able to limit the time that this child is online. So there's a huge array of solutions out there. My advice would be for the parents to go out and look at what they're looking to address and what best fits the needs of their children, and of course how best this can be addressed, because I don't believe there's one side that fits everybody. I believe you need a cocktail of solutions for you to be able to address these challenges.
All right, thank you. Fiona, I'm not sure we still have you on, but I would also like to hear from you as well in terms of having the IP providers as well look into it. What role can they play? And moving forward, probably you could also bundle this up with your parting shot. What do we need to do going forward? Are there certain issues we need to pay more attention to? And if yes, which are they in closing?
Okay, I think Carol has mentioned a large part of what is standard. There's a policy that guides on the content, bringing down content, and that is normally followed by everybody. All service providers adhere to it. When we get a takedown notice, we bring down the notice, but the instructions are very clear that it has to be a specific domain, and so that is what is used. When it comes to, ask the question on, whoever asked on IP, I'm assuming you're talking about the internet numbering protocols.
Yes, the internet numbering protocols, the IP addresses particularly.
Yes, and so when it comes to the IP addresses, we know that there are entities that, for whatever reasons, and a lot of the malicious entities tend to have dynamic IPs that they generate for their content. So practically, it has not been possible for service providers to be able to block all the IPs. However, we have a mechanism globally where we are able to block blacklisted IPs. So as service providers, that happens. I have been on the Address Council and the Number Resource Organization Council for 12 years. And these mechanisms have worked and they continue to work. And so when it comes to IP numbering and using that as a means of blocking content, ISPs do it to the level that they can. However, because there are challenges of the content the guys owning the content, having and generating dynamic IPs every time an IP is blocked, they already have another one out there. And then secondly, there's the issue of jurisdictions, and some jurisdictions not having laws that protect certain content. And so trying to get that content down becomes very difficult. And guys who have malicious actions online tend to find those jurisdictions as the places where they post their content. So while we would be able to block, the most we can do is block it, but block it once we know. So as ISPs, as best practice, it is already agreed, it has been in place for years. We block IP addresses that are considered inappropriate for our kind of society or our kind of market based on the laws we are adhering to. When it comes to IP tools for parents, it depends then on the level of knowledge that a parent has and how skilled the parent is. Some of the quick and easy tools that I can encourage parents to have, for example, is the Google Family tool, which enables a parent to be able to control how much access a child has to the different sites and to know what the child is doing online and what basically you have access to a platform that gives you a report. So you're not necessarily interfering with the child's feeling of freedom to access use their phone the way they want and how they want, but you can see everything that the child is getting online, and you get a text message to approve certain sites, to approve certain content as the child is engaging online. But I think the most important thing that comes out of this is what Carol has said, that the children are a reflection of the parents and the society. And so you as a parent need to spend time with your child. Know your child. Let the child feel they can be comfortable enough with you to open up to you about things that they are going through. If children are open to their guardians, it could be the parent, it could be the teacher, then we are making a step forward in developing digital citizens who understand the rights and the limits within the space and are able to follow. So if I was to give actually a parting shot, my parting shot would actually be, at the end of the day, there is only so much that governments, that institutions, established institutions can do. The responsibility is very much on the individual level. Everybody needs to make an effort to be a responsible digital citizen. Every parent needs to bring up responsible digital citizens, because at the end of the day, we will see the results of everyone's parenting in what they bring, in how people are handling the space moving forward. So really, your child is there for you to mold and help them to be responsible citizens. Schools are making an effort, but there's a large part of it that is with the parents, because in the schools, we have found situations where it is the parents' devices that have all the wrong content for the kids.
Okay, so it's the parents' devices that need checking. Because that's we access those that content from. That's where the kids access the content. And now I want to
off if I have another engagement I need to run.
Absolutely, thank you so much for your views, Caroline. Rather, Fiona, I do appreciate that. Fiona Asonga, who is the Chief Executive Officer at TESPOC. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. And I want to bring on board Mr. Nzano as well, because we live in an age of VPNs, and our children will surprise you that they know about virtual private networks, and they know how to bypass certain safeguards to access the kind of content that they need. So in closing, how do we go about this? The VPNs, the virtual private networks, and the like.
Thank you so much, Joy, and I really appreciate the conversation which we're having today, which I never thought we'll get so deep, but now it's really deep.
It is
yeah.
deep.
So VPN, virtual private networks, and the use of proxies. Indeed, yes, our young ones know how to use them, and they know how to bypass. In fact, they even know how to use new and emerging technologies. For example, parents try to be smart and they open Facebook accounts and they try to be avatars and disguise themselves to get onto their children, but somehow they get to discover. And they'll also have other platforms which are not very popular, and they will communicate with such platforms. So, and indeed, yes, VPNs and proxies are part of them. As all the previous speakers have spoken, it's really very difficult to police these brilliant young minds, which are very innovative and which are, we can't stop the bounded thinking which they have. But of course, yes, as Fiona had said earlier, when it comes to VPNs, they still use IP addresses. And once you do information sharing, which is very key, and as Madam Mercy had indicated earlier in her speech, in the DG speech, that collaborative effort is key. It's through collaboration, that's the only way we can reduce such menaces. So at the National KSAT, for example, we once there's a stubborn particular IP address which is persistent and is seen to be causing trouble based on this, and it could be in existence through VPN or any other one, then a lot of this information is shared with the various service providers. We will raise an alert. Look, there's a certain IP which seems to be misbehaving, and appropriate action will happen. Will take, which in most cases will be blocking the IP addresses, which also VPNs exist in those circles. Let me tell you, and as what Caroline has said earlier, truly, whatever you put in the internet is not unique. It will be there forever. And once in the internet, it's always on the internet. So we have to be very careful before we click that enter button, before we click that post button, whatever age we are, we need to be very careful what we post there, because that can be very detrimental. It can be something which would later turn on you and cause you trouble, or perhaps devastate your entire career. Like future CVs, for example, for employment, are going to be done, or actually are already being done through profiling. That's why you find most employers, when they ask for, they no longer ask for your CV and your certificates, because they know where to get them. They have tools which can harvest them online, and from there they can just profile you and know which type of person you are. So you can imagine, if in your childhood you had messed up your profile, you can never clean it. It will be messed up throughout the day. So in closing up, I also want to mention that government has done some other efforts. For example, through the police, it's important to mention that there's the anti-human trafficking and child protection units, a special unit in the DCI police, which just deals with children issues, handling children incidences. They have arrested so many people on this, both locally and foreign, through collaboration, through Interpol, for those who have really messed up on the net, just in the interest of protecting our children. Let's also not forget that the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018 is now put in place as an addition to boost the other laws with regard to child online protection. Particularly, so there is Section 24, which talks about child protection, child pornography, publishing of child pornography, among others. It's a serious crime now, which can actually have somebody jailed up to 5 years. And I was just reading here, and a fine of almost 10 million shillings. So be careful if you are found, and this now is fully operational. In fact, recently in the month of October, is it November? The committee was formed, the National Cybersecurity Coordination Committee, which is called the NC4. It was formed by the Ministry of Interior, and its main purpose is to enhance all these cybersecurity tools and to enhance all these cybersecurity laws, and more so in terms of law enforcement and putting to books these various culprits. So CA, Communication Authority, is a member of this committee, and we are working together towards putting in place these structures, and we are collaborating with various stakeholders on the same. I know I'm picking up into people's lunch hour. Thank you so much, and I'd like to close it to that. Thank you so much, Joy. It's a pleasure for you being moderated by you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Susan, your parting shot, if you may. Susan, are you there?
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was just reconnected. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for this panel discussion and for Joy, especially also for your moderation. Definitely really enjoyed it. One of the things that, of course, we as Meta, we are always open again for discussions. We're always open to hear for feedback and to really also engage with policymakers, the safety partners and other tech ecosystem partners in order to really develop the necessary prevention technology and needs for to protect children. So as I mentioned, we're focused in particular on preventing harm before it happens wherever possible. And we believe it's much better to stop harmful activity from happening than to detect it after the fact. But for those who violate our policies and evade our prevention mechanisms, we work to detect them and to take actions to ban bad actors and report them to law enforcement. And of course, while we're continuing our efforts within our platform, we're also working to provide standalone resources to our community and to proactively reach people on important safety issues. And our hub for resources can be found in our safety center, www.facebook.com/safety. And that provides a central location for people to access a variety of safety materials such as parents portals, child safety portal, and youth portal. Really, thank you so much for having us. And of course, looking forward to any future discussions. And thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Susan El-Sayed, who is in charge of Africa, Middle East, and Turkey at Meta, Facebook. Thank you so much. We do appreciate that. Caroline, in about, are you able to give us a vote of thanks? Caroline Mbugua, had we had your parting shot?
For a moment, I got confused about the closing remarks. I realized it's the other Caroline.
Yes.
So for me, it's just to also just mention that, as I had mentioned, the children are a reflection of the society. And when we talk about the children being our future, and of course, children being our heritage, as had been mentioned earlier, it's important that we are a bit more involved in exactly what they're doing and how they're getting to interact with, the online space and the digital tools that we avail to them. That providing digital guidance to children does not exonerate us of our responsibility of parenting them. They still need our guidance in this space, and it's important for us to do that. We also have a collective responsibility in ensuring that we have the right policies and rules and procedures in place to enhance the safety of children online, and for us to also create the right awareness at the right places with the right individuals, children included, on how to stay safe online. And just to mention that earlier on this year, we launched a microsite with the CA that is under the CA website, that I would like to encourage different players in Kenya and outside to be able to take advantage of this microsite in updating content that can be used as, for awareness, and of course also in collaboration with the authority, so that we can continue to, to preach this gospel around online safety, so that we can ensure that we are able to have the responsible digital citizen that we envision or that we would like to have in our children.
Right.
Thank you so much. That's it from me for now. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you very much, Caroline Mbugua from GSMA. We do appreciate your perspective, your views. And now to the closing remarks, Caroline from Communications Authority. Caroline Murianki, closing remarks, please.
Thank you very much, Doreen. And I would like to take this opportunity to really, really appreciate all the participants in today's webinar. I believe we've had very good engagement and a lot of enlightenment in terms of the technical tools that are available and those that are in the making. And we hope that we'll be able to leverage those tools. I would like to appreciate our panelists, Kenise Agira from KCSFA, Caroline Mbugua from GSMA, Susan Elasayed from Facebook, Meta. I would also like to really appreciate Fiona Asonga from TESPOC, and Joseph Nzano, my colleague in cybersecurity. I would like to really note that there are quite a number of tools that are available, and we have been able to see this from and hear this today during our webinar. We've been able to really appreciate that there are content filters, there are parental controls, privacy settings that we can, as consumers, put in or leverage at the device level, and also at the network level for service providers. We've also noted that there are tools that allow us to report. And with all these tools, we should be able to have an experience that is desirable, and one can be able to really focus on the productive aspects of the internet. I would like to also note from our discussions initiatives by service providers. We have some mobile apps or reporting apps like the KSAT. We've also heard about the microsites where one could get a lot of information and tools. We've also heard about Project Protect, which is run by the Technology Coalition. In addition to Facebook's security, online security safety hub, which I really recommend that we all leverage. It is notable that indeed there are numerous opportunities for collaboration and stakeholder engagement on how we could all further develop these tools and use this technology for online safety. Would also like, as an authority, to really appreciate that indeed consumers of communication services will now more than ever continuously be empowered, so as they could take charge of what we see, what we hear, and what we do online, and indeed make our online experiences safer and more enjoyable and much more productive. And we also have had a lot of discussion about the role of the society, the role of the individual, the role of family and parents, guardians, and teachers. And it is notable from our discussions today that we all indeed have responsibilities around this. And we hope that we are able to employ not only these technical tools that we have discussed here today, but also leverage preventive mechanisms and tools so that we can be able to have practices within the family setting, at the school setting, and at the society levels as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed the last remarks and my vote of thanks. And I would also like to appreciate service providers who've been able to facilitate the execution of this important webinar. We have received a lot of requests for engagement as the authority, and we have taken note of these requests, and we shall indeed get back to you on this matter. So for now, thank you very much, Doreen, for really hosting our webinar here today. And I really hope that panelists and participants have got a lot of this information from this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Caroline Murianki, who is the Acting Manager for Research and Consumer Information here at the Communications Authority of Kenya. And with that, I would like to say thank you all so much for participating, for your views, and also for just sticking to the conversation and being able as well to listen in to what the experts have been able to share. I would like to invite us all to tomorrow's session. It's going to be about the same time, 11 to 1 p.m. East African time, for day 2 of the Child Online Protection and Safety webinar. It's also going to be online, and among the speakers, we're going to have some social media influencers, as well as people who have experienced some of these online bullying, and I think Aziad Nasenya is one of them. And it must have happened about the time she was in her late teens. So she's probably the best example to share views and perspective on what she has experienced and also what she thinks can be done differently. And of course, there are also experts in the child online protection and safety who are doing who have different initiatives as well that will be sharing on their experiences there. So make sure tomorrow you're also geared for that conversation. And I know that we're having these conversations in the middle of December, where people are now getting into the Christmas mode. The children are going to be interacting with gadgets even during the Christmas period. Some of them are already on holiday. Some of them are going to be on holiday in a few weeks. So it's important that we put in place measures that will protect them with their usage and interactivity of the internet. Thank you all so much for sticking around. To all of you who have stuck around up to this point, much, much appreciated. And I'll see you again tomorrow. We'll see you again tomorrow. You will be with a different moderator, but I will be online. So I'll see you all tomorrow. And thank you to the Communications Authority for putting this together. Thank you so much to our panelists that were Mr. Joseph Nzano, Head of Department, Cybersecurity and E-Commerce at the Communications Authority of Kenya. And we also had Ms. Caroline Mbugua, the Senior Policy Manager, Sub-Saharan Africa at GSMA, and Susan El Sayed, Safety Policy Manager for Africa, Middle East and Turkey at Meta. And we also had Keniz Agira, the Chairman, Kenya Cybersecurity and Forensics Association, though his sound let us down, but we hopefully we can have him on one more time sometime soon. And Fiona Asonga, the Chief Executive Officer, Technology Service Providers Association of Kenya, TESPOC. Thank you. And to Mrs. Mercy Wanjao for giving those opening remarks as well, and for giving us some insights in some of the work that the Communications Authority is doing. Mrs. Mercy Wanjao, who is the Director for Legal Services, represented the Director General of the Communications Authority of Kenya. Thank you all so much. We do appreciate, and we'll see you again tomorrow. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Thank you all for being a great audience. It's the part where I say you may live at pleasure.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online, pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use, msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Sitaki jokes. Mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu, don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment and education online.
The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Nabonga na watoi kujua mambo za online, pia na create time wafanye vitu offline. Chungeni gadgets na sites wana use, msiwache strangers wapate chance kuabuse.
Nimeshindaje pesa kompe sija participate. Unadai info yangu na ikwe private say. Identity yangu haupati utumi. Kitu zangu ni zangu na bado nitazishikilia.
Una post story ati ni real news. Mimi sikuamini mpaka nione sasa hizo vis. Una text online to me tunanifeel. Sitaki jokes. Mimi nitakureport for real.
Wazazi, watoi na maithu wetu, don't be fooled. Get cyber smart and enjoy safe entertainment.